Hi, my name's Doug Bush. I've decided to put together this video kind of covering family history. And actually, I'm going to do several parts. Each part will cover a different tree, um, starting from my immediate family and then branching out through grandparents and great grandparents. Um, and I decided to do this because I find it fascinating. One, all the information about our family history and where we come from. Um, Not only that, but I find it difficult to sit down with someone and try to share it through Ancestry on a computer or tablet. There just doesn't seem to be time to do it. So I thought I could do these videos. They wouldn't be too awfully long, so they won't go, as in depth as they could. But at least someone watching it would be able to kind of piece together relationships and the different generations. So um, I'm going to have this on YouTube. I don't know how long it'll last. I don't know how long YouTube will be around. Maybe someone will be watching this in a couple of 100 years. Who knows? So anyway, let's get started. So immediate family is myself. I was born in 1959. My wife Judy, and then my two sisters, Denise and Diana, in 1964 and 1973. I haven't added their families in yet. I still need to do that. But here are my kids. My oldest, Aaron, his wife Stephanie, our middle son David, our youngest son Tyler, Jacob Tyler, but some people know him as Jacob. We know him as Tyler, and his wife Lauren, and then their two sons, Sterling and Peyton. And so today, or in this video, I'm going to go back through the Bush line. So we're going to be talking about my dad and his family, and just staying with the Bushes strictly. I won't necessarily talk about everyone in every generation, but we'll for sure talk about grandparents with each generation going back. So my dad's parents were William R. and Martha O'Bannon. So William R. Bush, Martha O'Bannon. Grandpa Bush was born in Danville, Illinois in 1912. I'm going to open his profile. And I actually found, well, I must have it with great grandpa. Anyway, his obituary and his tombstone. As a kid, I always thought of the Bushes all being from Louisville, because whenever we would go visit Grandpa Bush, that's where he lived, my grandpa. And that's where my dad was born. Even though he didn't spend all of his childhood there, that was kind of the connection, was Dad's people are from Louisville. And so the more I looked at this, the more I realized that wasn't the case. It was just that generation. And his, well, two generations back, my great-grandparents lived in Louisville, but they also spent time Danville, Illinois, like I said, and then my great-granddad was born in Elizabethtown. So that was kind of an interesting thing to learn. So then his dad, William R. Bush's dad, is William H. Bush. And there's a William in each generation. So my mom told me years after they named me that I probably should have been named William. That's okay. I'm okay not being a Bill. I feel more like a Doug. But my great-granddad was born in 1887 and passed away in 61. So I was born in 59. I have one picture of me with him and with my dad and my grandpa. And I think, here we go. So here's a picture of great-grandma and Grandpa Bush. It's a great picture. Yeah. then I was able to find in Danville, I believe this is the address where they lived in Danville, Illinois. It's hard to tell if any of this structure was around when they were there. Would have been in the 20s, I think, or even in the teens. So I'm not sure if any of this structure was there then or not, but this is the lot, as far as I could tell, in Danville. You also had a shop, butcher shop, in Louisville. And here's a picture from that shop. And in fact, a cousin of mine told me that he has a set of longhorns that were, yeah, right here. You can see these longhorns. He has those now, which is kind of cool. And I'm pretty sure this is my grandpa right here, my great-grandpa. Let's see. And I've not done a video like this, so I'm going to apologize. There may be times where I say something that I think is true, and then I look at Ancestry and it's not true. And then as I navigate through here, that'll be interesting too. One of my great-grandpa's brothers, Frank, was involved in the police department in Elizabethtown. In fact, I think it was chief for a time. Shelby is a name that's known around Hardin County. There were a couple of Shelby Bushes. It's my great-uncle, my grand-uncle. That would be great. Great-great-uncle Shelby Bush. All right, so then we go back. William H's dad is Thomas William, and his parents, Margaret Clark. They're buried in the Bush Cemetery in Elizabethtown off Ring Road. It's between Ring Road and Tunnel Hill Road. And I don't know that much about Thomas William. I have a few documents, and I've seen his headstone at the cemetery. But you can see here, born in Elizabethtown and died in Hardin County. So there's that Elizabethtown kind of anchor that's going to stay there as we go back further generations. His wife, Maggie, her father, Andrew Clark, fought in the Civil War and is buried outside Nashville. We'll talk about that some other time. Then you go back another generation, there's John Henry Bush, and he is also buried in that Bush Cemetery off Ring Road, between Ring Road and Tunnel Hill, 1828 to 1884. So my third great-grandfather. I have several documents, mostly census and things like that. His father is John Hardin Bush. I've not found his grave. He could be somewhere in that Bush Cemetery. And sorry, I skipped over it. But anyway, he could be there. There's just not a marker for him. Catherine Stater is great-grandma, and this is a cool picture. Kitty. Here's a picture of John Henry Bush and Kitty Stater. Okay. John Henry doesn't look super happy to be having his picture taken. I don't know. So let's go back here. I'm trying to keep this video from being too long. John Hardin Bush, his dates are 1802 to 1852. Interesting thing about John Hardin and Sarah Ann Cofer. John passed away before Sarah Ann did. Sarah Ann ended up moving to Illinois with her brother, and she's buried in Coles County, Illinois. And I visited that grave site. It's a little Union Cemetery kind of out in the country. John Hardin could be named after, there's a relationship between the Hardins, the family that Hardin County is named for, and the Bushes, and we'll see that as we go back a little further. So he could be named for um, Bill Hardin. I think there's, anyway, some relationships there, and I think that's why his middle name is Hardin. We go back another generation, and we have William Bush and Elizabeth Rhodes. And Grandpa William is part of that second generation of Bushes that are in our line that came to Kentucky and came to Hardin County. His house still stands, their house still stands on Tunnel Hill Road in Elizabethtown, and most people know it as the Reeser House. And here's a picture. It's a white painted, I think it's a brick house, been painted over. William had sizable property in Hardin County. You know, you would probably call it a plantation. Here's maybe a better picture. There we go. The house sits off the road and back down kind of low, so it's hard to see from the road, but it's on the registry. And we think it was built around 1817, and the reason I say that is on the chimney there are initials WBEB 1817. It's pretty cool. Okay. We also have what we believe is his Bible, and I have some pages scanned out of that, which has genealogy. It has the records of who's who, and you know, some of the pages aren't in great shape. It's hard to read some of it, but it's pretty neat to think that we have that. And going back one more generation is Christopher Bush. Christopher, William's father, obviously, and was the father of Sarah Bush, who became stepmother for Abraham Lincoln. So this generation right here, okay, all these people were the first Bushes to come to Hardin County that we're related to. There are other Bushes. There's a Captain Billy Bush, and there's another Christopher Bush. And if you do research into them, a lot of the records and things you find are Clark County. So they're around Winchester, Lexington area. And I believe Christopher Bush spent time with Squire or Daniel Boone. So I think that's a different, you know, if we go back far enough, maybe they're family, but it's a different Christopher Bush. And they're about the same time, which sometimes confuses people when they're looking at records and things. So yeah, Christopher Bush, from what I can find, I found evidence of him being born in Germany. Some of the early Hardin County history, he says something about his people being from Holland. So I haven't really nailed it down. Okay. But he came to Hardin County the late 1700s with Big Bill Hardin or William Hardin, came down the Ohio River, was at Hardinsburg, later had a falling out with the Hardin family, moved his family to Elizabethtown, which was kind of a series of forts and then became a town about that time. So one of the early settlers I had, and I don't know that I have it anymore, I've seen a diagram of Elizabethtown with early lots laid out, and it shows property that Christopher owned. I know for sure that he owned this lot at the corner of Main and Poplar All right, it's across the street from the Brown Pusey house. This is not the house he would have lived in. Chances are it would have been a log home. There weren't many houses built out of anything but logs at that period. Later on, people started building out of brick. And so anyway, it's the north, it would be the northwest corner of Main and Poplar is this house. And that lot belonged to Christopher Bush. And I believe that's where he lived. He worked as a patrolman, and that is right down from where the old jail was. So I have a feeling that all makes sense, that he would be in that part of town. There is a lake named for Christopher. And this article talks about this. And one time I found where this is. I know Dee Dee, my sister, has driven out by it. But right now I don't remember exactly where it's located. So Christopher is my 6th great-grandfather. And he's mentioned quite a bit in Hardinsburg history, history of Hardin County, if you read the Haycraft book or the McClure book. Either one of those, there are stories in there about Grandpa Christopher. He must have been such a pretty good character, because came down the river. Obviously, in that period of time, white settlers and natives were not getting along. So there are some things that happened that we're probably not super happy about today. But he was, they would have been some of the first white people to settle in that part of the country. So that's the Bush line. As far as I've been able to get back to, I do have, or I have found, a birth record for Christopher Bush in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, I'm probably saying that wrong, Germany, born to a Johann Jacob Bush. And so then there's that whole debate about, is the B-U-S-H, is it a German name with the C taken away, or is it an English name? If you look up Bush, you find Bush in England or Great Britain quite a bit. So who knows? I have read records where they talk about his family speaking German, that Sarah and the other kids would speak in German. So that kind of tells me that it's not British at all. All right. Thanks for watching.